Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life.
How do we show up in the world? Many of us over the years have chosen the way that society wanted us to be, or the way that we thought our parents wanted us to be, something that would make them proud of us. Maybe it was our friends. Maybe it was just how we thought we could be successful. But our soul is always speaking to us. That higher self, that part of us that's non-physical, is always trying to get us to step into who we are and who we're meant to be. We all have these gifts and talents that are meant to be shared with the world. We're meant to serve with them. And as we share our gifts and talents with the world, others share theirs with us. It's really taking us towards living fully our unique purpose, the essence that we're here and that we bring to the world and we shine out, the gift that we bring, which is a combination of our gifts and talents and the process that we use, and our divine intent, that part of us that's truly the difference that we're meant to make. And we can bring those three parts, those parts of our unique purpose, into the world in a way that creates abundance, that brings fulfillment, that allows us to live our life fully in alignment with the reason that we came into this earth. I'm with Mary Henderson today. Mary is an internationally recognized personal branding and online business specialist. She helps industry experts systematize, digitalize, and commercialize their knowledge, wisdom, and skills into a scalable and profitable online business and a brand so they can become an authority in their niche or industry. Mary embraces technology and social media in a big way, and her followers are growing daily. She's a heart-centered and compassionate, also tenacious entrepreneur who thrives on human transformation and witnessing people fulfill their dreams. Mary Henderson, are you ready to share the magic of you with the imagination?
I certainly am, Vince. I'm ready to go.
I'm so excited to have you here. Mary's joining us from Australia. So quite a difference in time between the two of us. So she's just getting her day started sharing with you. Mary, could you give the imagination a little bit more understanding of who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. I work with industry experts predominantly, and these are the people that have accumulated 10, 20, 30,000 hours in their area of specialization. And I help them systemize, digitalize, and commercialize their knowledge, wisdom, and skill set into a six-figure plus coaching business, predominantly an online coaching business, and also a brand. And I have a system that I've built that takes them from start to promise. And it's just wonderful working with these amazing people.
Well, you're definitely on the right podcast, being a heart-centered person as you are, and really thriving on human transformation. But also, I'm a bit of a system geek, so I love the fact when we can make a business and bring who we are to the world in a way that kind of unloads us to truly be who we are in our business. So thank you so much for doing that. I was doing some research and kind of delved into your story a little bit, and your wake-up call that I'd love for you to share is a little bit different than a lot of them that we share on the podcast. Could you tell us, that wake-up moment for you, and then why you stepped into doing what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. And, before we got on this call, you said something really profound. And, everyone, we don't have to have a dramatic wake up call, that's life and death. As you say, it's a consciousness. It's this awakening that you just go, oh my God, and you start to question everything. And for me, that happened 3 hours after I gave birth to my second child. That was my absolute wake up call. I had wake up calls before then, but this was profound, because it was a deep realization that I gave birth. I'm in this hospital bed 3 hours after I give birth. I reach out to the side of my bed to get some lip balm. My business card just accidentally fell out of my purse onto the bed. It was like I picked up that business card, Vince, and it was like I was watching this business card become a movie of my life. And the movie was essentially Mary, the labels, the daughter, the sister, the friend, the managing director of the software company that I had built for 7 years. Just so many labels. And also that society wanted me to be as well, compliant, obedient, all of these layers. And in that moment, I thought, I'm actually doing the wrong thing. The company that I have built, I have not built this because I love it. I've built this because I'm waiting for my mum and dad to tap me on the shoulder to say, Mary, we're really proud of you, even though you didn't finish your degree. That for me was the wake-up call, because I realized that as an adult, why am I still behaving like a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old? And I'm still waiting for the validation of these two people that I happen to call my parents. What is with that? And 2 weeks after I left that hospital, I resigned from my own company. Mind you, this was a company that was turning over 7 figures a year. I had an infrastructure, I had staff, I was renting an office. It wasn't just like I was working from home. So it was dramatic. And so I remember having a meeting with my accountant 2 weeks after, and I walked in, Vince, I was so alive. I was shining like a light. I wore my best clothes, my 5-inch stilettos. I was on fire. And I walked into this boardroom. My accountant's like, oh my God, you look amazing. You've just given birth. And I said to him, oh, I feel amazing. We sit down and he says, Mary, let's go through all of your numbers. And I said, I don't really need to go through the numbers. I said, I'm actually resigning from my own company. And he starts laughing. And he said, oh, that's just hormonal. I said, oh, no. I said, my soul is speaking to me. I'm resigning from my own company. And that's it. And I actually don't care what happens. Thankfully, I merged my company with a design agency. January 2012, I took a 12-month sabbatical. I engaged 3 mentors. One of the mentor that changed the trajectory of my life was a professor in philosophy at Oxford University with 30 years of academic research. And he just took me on a journey of my inner self. And it was after that then I took 3 years to design my system, my frameworks, and what I really wanted to do. And here I am today, Vince, actually pursuing what I can do with ease and grace, that I actually get to call my vocation, and I get paid to do what I can do with my eyes closed. So that was that turning point that really changed my whole life, because it forced me to actually dive deep and challenge every paradigm that I held on to. And till this day, I'm still challenging paradigms, Vince. But that was the starting point. A big chunk of that was really asking questions. Why do I believe in that? What is that true? And then when you start breaking down paradigms and essentially the status quo, your life will change, guaranteed.
It's so fun to be a podcaster when somebody gives you about 30 things to talk about in one little discussion, and you get to choose. It's just like Christmas for me. Which package do I choose to deliver to the imagination? So thank you so much for that. So the thing that I want to start out with is, so your business card hits your bed, and now you realize that your brand isn't your personal brand, it's what's expected for the world. How did that feel? And then where did you get the idea that, okay, I need to help myself with my personal brand as well as everyone else?
The personal brand for me, my journey with personal branding actually started way before then, in year 2000. And I was working in the tech industry. I was climbing the corporate ladder. Things were amazing. I had a sliding door moment, and I realized back in 2000 that if I get this right, I can command my own demand, just by building myself as a brand, as a person that can solve this type of problem. I did exactly that, and I was headhunted. I was in demand. Everyone knew me. It was crazy times. But when I went through that process with my mentor, what I realized is, for me, personal branding now has completely changed, because for me, personal branding is, who am I in my natural state of being? What does my soul print actually look like in the form of my attributes, my knowledge, my wisdom, my skills, my gifts, my talents, my passions, my core values? What do I stand for? What's my story? So all of these attributes is now my version, if you will, of personal branding, which all of that packaged together then allows us to actually see, oh, this is what I can do with ease and grace. So when I'm working in that flow, that place of ease, then I can convert that into a vocation, and I can commercialize all of those attributes if it's done correctly. Okay, so we're not talking here, reading 3 books and then becoming a life coach. We're talking here about your life in the form of internal inventory. What does that internal inventory look like as a currency? What problem can it solve? And we form a personal brand around those attributes, which essentially is your brand truth. So for me, coming from the tech industry, a big part of my life till this day is technology. I use it massively in my business. We've built software. It's a big part of my life, but it doesn't define me. What defines me are all of the things that I can do with ease and grace. And that has become my wisdom. And we have to look at it from that standpoint, not from a glorified standpoint of how can I be famous? Because fame lives in purpose. Once you pursue your purpose, and you're flowing in that energy field, then the universe responds to that. People respond to that. And so for me, when I went through that journey, and that's why I took that 3-year break before I launched into coaching, because I could have had that 12 months with my mentor and then gone straight into becoming a coach, or I could have taken 3 years off and asked myself, how can I turn my gifts, the things that I can solve, the problems I can solve, how can I actually turn that into a solution and actually systemize it so that I can provide so much value to people that they are genuinely solving a real problem. So my brand has evolved exponentially in the last 22 years, but I'm comfortable with where it's at the moment.
Thanks for sharing in the way that you did, because I was going to ask, because you shared, I get to do what I do with my eyes closed. And sometimes people can take that in the wrong way, but you did so well explaining you can do it with your eyes closed because it's who you are. It's your gifts, it's your talents, it's what you're here to bring to the world. And the way you shared that at Imagine Miracles, we call it your unique purpose, the 3 parts of the reason that you're here. And you're turning that purpose into a brand for people, which is so huge, because many of us don't know how to step out of, oh, this is who I am, this is what I'm meant to do, this is how I'm here to serve the world, but we don't know how to show the world that we're here. So I appreciate what you're doing in bringing it that way. How did you bring the technology world to helping somebody find their brand?
Well, this is actually a really big part. I thank you for asking me that question, because it's such an important part of who I am for a start. When I was working with my mentor, one of the processes, I guess that you could call it a process, that he made me go through was write in freehand writing and in first person the first 21 years of my life. Now, that seems really easy, but put pen to paper is very, very hard, because when you're writing in freehand, you're not supposed to think. You're supposed to just write. And essentially what they're saying is that it's the soul that's actually writing, not your logical mind. And it took me a long time before I grabbed that grey lead pencil onto paper and I started to write, because I was in such a state of logic. And that's my background, of course. But when I started to give myself permission to just write from that place of non-judgment, then I started to see this amazing story evolve. That was the truth, because it was just, feelings and emotions and ideas and passions and happiness and sadness. There was lots of things in that story. But of course, being the technologist that I am, I transferred all that information onto an Excel spreadsheet. And I thought, I wonder if there's any patterns here. So I just picked just fundamental things, and I categorized it. What was I feeling at that age? What was I doing? What was the emotion? Who was with me? I just sort of categorized it very, very loosely. But what I found is that I had patterns, Vince. And when I was in my height, I was happy. I was doing what I loved. I was joyful. The people that were with me at that point in my life were lifting me up. There were all these patterns. And based on that spreadsheet, I asked myself, if I'm going to work with people and define their brand, I need to find a way where I can get to the brand truth. Very important word for me, because that's my core value. Truth is my core value. So how do I get to the core value? How do I get to the brand truth? And so what I did is my tech team, we designed an entire algorithm, and my SaaS, it's a SaaS platform, and it's called Authority. And when people work with me, they log in there and they go through all of the applications, and it spits out all of these reports. So when I'm working with people, and especially when we start our onboarding sessions, now I have data that is the truth. So I don't want someone saying to me, oh, my dream is to be Oprah. I really want to be like her. I want, everything about her to be. And I'm like, well, I don't want, you can never be Oprah. So it's just forget it. And what it's done for me and my client is that we build the brand architecture so that it's a solid foundation, Vince. It's solid, it's not breakable. And it also is consistent and congruent with all of their touch points. So when they're on a podcast interview, they're not talking about X and then you go to their website and it's Y. Okay, it's all consistent. It's the same. The story's the same. The solution, their signature solution is the same. The messaging is the same. The tone and feel is the same. The language is the same. Nothing shifts from that standpoint. So technology for me is vitally important, and I'm using it for the betterment of humanity. It's not destructive, it's constructive. And my clients, when they go through that process, it's actually quite cathartic. A lot of them say, I just couldn't stop crying when I did it. And it's the only reason why people get so emotional is because I feel that when people go through that process, it's like they've unlocked the prison in the deepest core of their inner self, and the soul finally is free. That's the only way I can describe it. So that's where technology for me plays a massive, massive role in the work that I do.
And it opens so many doors. Even just doing the personal work opens so many doors. But then when you can take that information and lay it out in front of somebody and say, here's your direction and here's who you are, all you have to do is share you with the world. That is so huge. I had so many places I wanted to go, but as I shared with you earlier, I always like to ask something that I hope nobody else asked. So I've got my personal brand. I've got my divine intent, the reason I'm here, and I've got the gift that I'm here to give. Mary's got her divine intent, her gift, her reason to be here. But as a couple, we also have this divine intent. We also have a purpose. Can you help couples or even business partners find their personal brand the same way?
It has to be individualized, because let's think about this for a moment. You know, in a business, two partners make up two halves of a circle. Okay, so you have to look at it like that. So if I work with a lot of people that are in business together, but I always look at them as individual brands, and what is their aligned mission, what is their aligned purpose, what is their aligned intention, but the individual. And the only thing that I like to stay the same is the language of their solution and their services. That's the only thing I like to maintain as consistent. You don't want one person saying X and the other one saying Y. That part of the business must be congruent. And also, when it comes to their color palette, of course, that's going to be the same as well, because they've got a shared interest, they've got a shared business. But in terms of actually your voice, your authenticity, that cannot be the same. And it never should be the same, because then you start being in the shadow of somebody. And the whole idea of the work that I do is to release the soul and what its purpose is and what its true, authentic, natural state of being is. So my view is, and sometimes people don't actually see what they bring to the table, based on, their DNA print, their soul print. It's like, do you realize that you've got all of these skills in this area? Why are you not using that? And people sometimes think, and this is what people say all the time, I just think that everyone can do that. Yes, everyone can do it, but they can't do it like you. So that's the difference. So I think that it always has to be individualized, Vince.
Once again, so many things in there that we could go so many directions. First of all, I appreciate you sharing that each individual has to show up authentically and in alignment with their purpose. And when a partnership comes together, those partners have to support each other's individual purpose and each other's direction. So
Yes.
I really appreciate you sharing it that way. And then also, you're talking about something that's very important to me, because when we uncover people's gifts and talents, we help them see just how amazing they are. It's those things that you think is so easy and that everybody can do that are truly the gifts that you're here to deliver to the world. And you said it so perfectly just a second ago. Could you share, Mary, a little bit more about what someone can expect as they go through as working with you as a client?
My passion when I'm working with a client is that to commercialize that genius zone. That's my ultimate goal. Because if a personal brand can't be commercialized, what is it? It's just a nice document with lots of colors and fonts and all these beautiful language, but what is it if it can't be commercialized? So the very first thing that I look at, Vince, is somebody's internal inventory. What have you accumulated in the form of knowledge, wisdom, and skill set? It's very important for me to define that, because if I can't work with somebody that doesn't have at least 10,000 hours dedicated to a specialization. Whether you're an accountant, I don't care what it is, but there needs to be some type of inventory for me to start with. Otherwise, it's too hard. Telling me that you've got these ideas or you've read 10 books, that doesn't cut it for me. It's very difficult to create somebody into an authentic self in public when you can't back it up. And when I'm talking about a backup, the backup requires a story. It requires history of your timeline, where you've worked, what you've done, what you've sold, etc. So I like to accumulate all of that in the form of knowledge, wisdom, and skill set, first and foremost. And what we do is we start the process by unpacking the individual. They start by logging into the software. The software unpacks all of those attributes that I mentioned before. And those are very important because they're like the building blocks. This is the architecture now. We're starting to build a story around this person. And what is it that they're going to stand for? What does their brand proposition actually look like? What does it sound like? What is it that they actually do? My clients need to articulate what they do in less than 5 words. The brand proposition needs to be articulated in less than 10 seconds. If they can't achieve that, it's not right. You have to be able to just be confident and sure, absolute sure in yourself with what it is that you do, who it is that you can serve, and what it is that you can promise. They're the 3 critical data points that we're looking to achieve when we're creating the brand. And then once we've done that, then we can go and look at the look and feel, the color palettes, all of the obvious things when it comes to branding. But then there's a couple of other areas. One is really understanding the target audience and understanding not just who you want to serve as in a niche or a niche. I'm not interested in that because the people I work with, they're not looking for a niche or a niche. What they're looking for is they can solve a problem, and they're looking to help an industry, a business, or an individual who needs that problem solved. It's got nothing to do with a niche. So when we look at the audience that they're targeting, we always also have a scientific process of understanding where is your client on their buying journey. Where are they on that buying journey? And we have a framework of how we do that, but it's very important to understand that. And the reason that's important, this again all falls under the personal branding, is that when I understand who I am as a brand, who it is that I serve, I can write content that speaks to the person's heart. Now, this is very important. It's not writing content in terms of tips and tricks. Those days are gone. We need to write content very differently today and speak to the heart and the soul of that individual. Very important. Now, that's the personal branding bit. Then we get to the systemization bit. We then start systemizing what it is that you can do with ease and grace. So all of that inventory then gets systemized into what I call your signature program. This is my genius zone. This is where I can take all of your inventory and I can just create this program that can command premium pricing. That's that part there. And then we get to the digitalization part, which is creating assets that create ecstatic brand experiences across all of your communication touch points in the public arena, your website, your sales funnels, your lead magnets, all your social media. Everything and everyone that touches my brand must have an ecstatic brand experience. It's vitally important. That is my ultimate driver. And then we get to the layered lead generation. And then once we've got all of those elements in place, then we get to the layered lead generation. And layers are very important because I don't know where my prospect is going to be today or tomorrow. So I want to try and reach out onto different layers to make sure that they see me, they hear me, and they not just hear me and see me, but they get to know me, they get to love me, and eventually they get to buy from me. These are the 3 elements that I focus on. And there's one thing that brings it together, Vince, because everything I've just explained is a masculine power system. That's what implementation is, the masculine power system. It's the doing. I have to take action in order to get results. That's the doing. Then we need to come back and we need to be that. So we have to embody that version of us. We have to self-actualize that potential and then work from the feminine power system so that they merge together. So when my clients show up in the world, they're showing up as the whole person, not just as the person that's implemented all of this stuff and they're doing, becoming exhausted and going back to where they started from, which was the starting line. I don't want people at the start line. I want them moving towards the finish line. So I merge those two systems together. And again, I have frameworks that actually do that, which is very, very special, that part of my program. But it really also, again, falls into that idea of being seen and being heard. And in my view, and in the work that I've done over the many years, the feminine system is really the only way to be present in the world so you can be seen and you can be heard.
I do know that people have gotten to know you and have gotten to love you through our time together. Could you share a piece of parting guidance to help the imagination, especially those people that aren't at their 10,000 hours yet? Could you help them along their journey?
I want to use the word imagination because it's such a big part of my life, and when my clients get to that place of embodiment, I always get people to write a story about their life, their future life, in a way that they believe that this is the life that I truly want to experience. And no matter how exaggerated it may seem, to me, I always say to my clients, but that's what your soul wants. If you're writing that, the soul wants that. So you have to acknowledge that and then self-actualize that. And my advice to people is this: starting from your specialization, if you feel in your gut, somewhere inside of you, that you really want to be known as the go-to person, either in your industry, whether you're a full-time employee or whether you want to transition into a coach or a consultant, a business owner, solopreneur, whatever label you want to give it, the key is to focus on understanding what is your specialization based on your internal inventory. You already have everything that you need in order to show up as the go-to person. It just needs to be packaged in a way with a language that people will resonate with. So focus on building that specialization, focus on building those hours, because it's so much easier for you to build a brand and also be recognized as a believable and trustable go-to person.
Oh, aren't we all so special and unique with our combination of gifts and talents?
Yes, we are.
Could you tell people how they could get in touch with you, Mary, and learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. Please feel free to email me at mary@maryhendersoncoaching.com. You can go to my website, maryhendersoncoaching.com. You can get me on LinkedIn, Mary Henderson Coaching with a pink circle around my face, or Instagram and Facebook, Mary Henderson Coaching.
And I'll make sure all that information is available. Just go to themiracleyou.com. Look for Mary Henderson's episode. That information will be available to you. Mary, thank you so much for, first of all, what you're doing in the world and how you're helping people, bringing your gifts and talents together in a way that really is going to make a huge difference in this world. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you so much for having me.
On behalf of my wife and business partner, Mary, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.